call Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, as I sat there listening to the government's budget this afternoon, all I could think was, is that it? Really, was that it? Here we are, under urgency, debating two bills, and then I'm thinking, is that it? Is that all that they can really come up with? When we have a housing crisis, no, we're not debating the housing crisis. We've got critical funding shortages in health and education. No, we're not doing anything about any of those. We're here talking about increasing the price of cigarettes, which we'll get to later on, and this bill, the climate change response, removal of transition measures amendment, or measure amendment bill. That's it. It was one measure, and that's it. That's the total extent of the government's urgent agenda following this year's budget. Nothing about those critical issues that matter to New Zealanders. The compilation budget, it's like a compilation album, that retro album, the same old tunes you've heard time and again. That's what this government's budget was. Of course, compilation albums normally come out before the band folds because they've run out of new material and they're out of ideas and they're about to pack up shop. Mr Speaker, the one surprising thing about this is that the government is doing anything about climate change at all, because of course we know that there's still a bunch of flat earth deniers, flat earth believers over there who fail to accept that climate change is a reality. Of course, propped up by the ACT Party, who make it their central thesis that climate change isn't a reality, because they vote against most of the measures in this House. They voted against most of the measures in this House that would actually do meaningful things to address the challenge of climate change. I know that personally because the first Members' Bill I introduced into the House would have stopped new electricity generation in New Zealand coming from non-renewable fossil fuels. And what did the National Party do? They voted against it. A bill that would have had a meaningful impact on New Zealand's emissions, because it would have reduced the prospect for new emissions coming from electricity generation. They voted against it. And every significant piece of legislation that's been proposed by Labour or by the Green Party or by any other party, the National Party has opposed it. The emissions trading scheme, first thing they did when they became the government was water it down. Water down the emissions trading scheme in their very first year in office. That says everything about their commitment to dealing with the challenge of climate change. This is a government that still fundamentally doesn't believe in climate change. They don't accept the realities of climate change. So while it's welcome that they're doing this one small thing that will make a difference, but not a very big one, there is still nothing in this year's budget that will address the really big issues around climate change. But then it doesn't have anything in this year's budget that addresses the really big issues around just about anything else. So why should we be surprised by that? It's very little in this budget, no surprises, no substance actually in the budget of any great note. Just to continue on, ignore all of the major problems and major challenges facing New Zealand, bury their heads in the sand for as long as they possibly can and hope that someone else will fix up the problems. Well, actually, someone else will. It will be the next Labour government, and that will happen in 2017 after the next election.
Good speech.